packets, especially at the elementary level. And so that'll all be online, and then there will also be information for elementary families about school supplies. So that'll be coming out soon. So we'll do that. We'll mail it out. We'll put it on Facebook. We'll send out real share messages and get the word out. Cool. That's it.
The student reps aren't here. Board discussion. You guys, what are we doing? Why is that on here? I think we don't have one. Okay. How about the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Superintendent information.
Because it's the shortest meeting ever. Okay, next week on July 1st, Katana and Lisa Matthews and I are planning a Zoom to talk about just some of the budget ins and outs. And Russ plans to join us by Zoom, and we don't want to make it an official meeting, but if there's one other board member who wants to join for that, we've got a spot for one more.
So unfortunately, I've got family visiting and I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing then, so rather not commit to that.
What time are you thinking?
1 o'clock on the 1st. Probably only be about 30 minutes, but it's just an opportunity for us to talk about the work that's been going on so far and what we're learning and where we're headed. So if you are available, let
If
me
you
know.
want to, I'll do it if no one else wants to do it. But if you're not,
Go ahead.
okay.
Okay, I'll send you the invite.
Okay.
Earlier this week, we also had a meeting with OSPI and the ESD about binding conditions. And so that was just a regular check-in. They had a few more questions than normal about some of the documents that you'll see tonight just in our budget presentation, but it wasn't any concern. It was just asking more questions. And we're still on track to be exiting binding conditions, but we're still being very cautious because it doesn't mean that like there's any kind of magic button that happens at that point where we suddenly have lots of money. We're still building that fund balance back. But it is nice that we might be able to put binding conditions behind us. And we'll have the budget hearing and the resolution for the 26-27 budget on July 23rd. So that's coming. And then with the consent agenda, I mentioned it last week, but I want to mention it again because it was on the consent agenda this time. You approved the agreement with the Whatcom County Sheriff's Department for our criminal justice class that will start next year. That might be something that Todd talks about in a little bit more detail. And that's all I have.
Nice. All right. Perkins grant and CT from.
Yep. Take it, Cheryl.
All right. Says sure disabled.
No, I'll be on this.
Try your other face.
I'm sorry, but Zoom gives me flashbacks.
Still trying to see if I can find it.
Still doesn't see it. Maybe email it to me and I can try email it.
I just keep sending him calendar invites. They should pop up in his email.
Oh,
Okay, so this is the annual CTE and Perkins presentation. I've tried to summarize some of the data. It's a bit easier to read than maybe years back. So in our programs, no big changes in the ag department. In business and marketing, no big changes there. So we did bring back nutrition and wellness, baking and pastry, and we also added intro to education. So nutrition wellness we had before. We hired Emily Schbach, and then Jeannie Sullivan did the intro to education class. And then technology, no big changes there. Okay, and then our enrollment trend over the last 10 years. So we're kind of leveling out, I hope, up, I'd say rather significantly for a kind of a declining school population. We've increased, and that's obviously mostly from combination of increased class sizes as well as adding family consumer sciences and intro to education back in CTE. So the Perkins accountability, this year we had to go through a full local, comprehensive local needs assessment. So some of the graphs I'm going to show you are concentrators. Just understand that a concentrator is a student that's enrolled in 2 or more credits in a program. So it's typically, you think back several years ago before a trimester, it's basically 2 full years. And so it looked at all these different indicators. And if we did not if we didn't meet state standard in one of the areas, we only had to show a 3%, we had to target or set a goal for a 3 percentage point increase. Okay, and then, so this is kind of the overall graph. So the red line is the state goal for each. I understand the line doesn't really represent much, but just to kind of train your eye. And then, so the 4-year grad rate, so the gray is concentrators. So that's those students with 2 or more credits versus the high school. And so we were, we've been consistently above the high school's 4-year grad rate for quite a while. ELA, we bridged that gap. Math, we're still below. I think that's 2 years in a row now. And then science, kind of a dramatic high school increase, but in CTE, not so much. And then non-traditional program was a huge jump, basically because OSPI changed the way they calculated it. I'm not going to say that I had anything to do with it, but I asked a few questions, and all of a sudden they changed it in like 2 months. So anyway, the number I think benefited almost most CTE people in the county. And then post-secondary credentials, so that's industry recognized certificates or certifications. So we're a little bit low in that still, but we've increased kind of steadily the last few years as we add more. And then we've consistently been above the state goal in post-secondary credit. So that's CTE dual credit primarily, but also college and high school start counting because that's in our intro to ed class. And all this data is from the class of 2024. I got class of 2025 data like the last week of school, but I didn't enter it into my massive spreadsheet yet.
So is this saying that for folks enrolled in CTE, the English and math are lower compared to the high school, but the graduation rate is higher?
Correct.
Okay, that's kind of interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
In some years in science, we've been above as well as ELA, but it's just, it's one snapshot of a class.
Right.
There's could be a lot of variation year to year.
Okay.
And remember, a kid doesn't have to pass the ELA or math to graduate. CT is a big graduation pathway. So if they enroll in that, they can, in a class that offers IRC or dual credit, or they can graduate.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the post-secondary credits, our concentrators are at the very bottom in yellow. And so all of our special populations, except for 504, were above the state goal. And then post-secondary credential, interesting, the white students were the lowest.
What's the 504 again?
Students with disabilities. And then non-traditional programs. So that's like a say a female student in a welding class or a boy in a foods class. Kind of is the best kind of way to give you a picture of it. So our concentrators are at, that number increased dramatically, and we're, more than almost 3.5 times the state goal finally. But we've always been low in that, and I had no idea why until I dug into Sears and raised a few questions about a year or two ago. Then work-based learning, we're pretty high there too. So we've worked in our PLCs for the last probably 4 years. I'd say since COVID, integrating work-based learning into our classrooms. That includes things like guest speakers, school-based enterprises like Mount Baker Student Industries, my natural resources class that operates the fish rearing pond, greenhouse class. All those count as work-based learning. Right, and then also, this is this year's data, because that's what I really care about. But so this is dual credit with BTC, Wenatchee Valley College, and Whatcom Community College. I should have put Central in there because I got the Intro to Ed thing number from Ginny on Monday. But the blue is the, blue is the number of students and red's the number of credits.
Finances CTE?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that that Lembo teaches?
Yes.
That's one?
Yep.
We went in there and everybody was like fired up, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's my son took it a couple of years ago and he's like, loves it. I wish he'd go into it as a career, but he got a lot out of it. I mean, figuring out loans and insurance and everything else. It was great. Okay, so certifications, no big changes. The only real new one that we do is Jason Iwasaki started woodworking. Our goal in our Perkins, in our district-wide plan last year that, when I was here about a year ago, was to have a certification program in every single area. And so that was the one that was missing one. And so our next goal is to offer 2 in each program area. And then I think with that, it'll take a few years for our data to catch up, because we're always about 1.5 years behind on data, like for the CLNA, but it should increase. And then we're also adding pet CPR. Karina got it approved at the state level, and then we're adding equine and livestock first aid next year as part of our animal biology class. And then here's the results. So woodworking, I think 5 students took it, 4 passed it. Pet CPR, we only give, some of these are expensive. And so we give it to kids that, a B or better usually, and have completed a certain number of assessments to prep them for the test, is kind of the way I've done it. Because some of these are $20 to $50 a piece. So we use Perkins to pay for all these, the federal grant money. So my natural resource class, I had 1 kid, this is last week of school, and 1 kid passed it. Actually, one I didn't expect to, but they did. And we haven't had anybody pursue the OSHA 10. American Welding Society, we had 2 complete their certifications in that, passed it. 3 more are working on it, but then they didn't come back to the class after the first trimester. Food worker card, and then small gas engine. 2 classes of students, same thing, B or better, have completed your engine, complete all your assessments, and every kid but 1 who was eligible passed it.
You're basically taking the engine apart, putting it back together.
Yes, and doing lots of measurements in between.
Hopefully no leftover parts.
Well, sometimes there are. And then forklift, that number, I just want to, I think I said it last year, but 38 that was the first year we did it. And so student has to have a driver's license to do it. I learned that about a year or two ago, scared the, what out of me. So a student has to have their driver's license in order to do it. So obviously we've kind of caught up, and every kid that takes advanced metals fall or spring takes the certification course.
Has the program ever had human CPR classes?
Yes, when we taught health in CTE, that was their IRC, and that's might be a little bit why. Well, it's usually why all the kids, if they took health, nutrition, wellness, baking and pastry, and culinary arts, that's the 4 classes. And then if they took health, which every freshman does, they automatically have an IRC. Okay. So the district-wide plan, later on in your agenda, you have a kind of what hopefully this link works this year. I tested it. Hey, look at that. So this is a document, and this is required by OSPI for us to receive CTE funding as well as Perkins funding. And so our advisory committee met beginning of first part of June and kind of went through a survey evaluation of our CTE programs, and kind of we did a more of a concentrated effort all together at that meeting rather than just send a survey home and hopefully we get it back by October. And so this worked, I think, at least in the ag department, worked much better where everybody was able to talk about each item. It didn't take as much time as I thought. And then, so it's, I won't do it too fast. So everything from accountability to safety, facilities, students' access to program to ensure equity, leadership, which is our our CTSOs like FFA, long range planning, and then some advisory committee goals. So you've had this, I'm sure you probably didn't go over with a fine tooth comb, but does anybody have any questions on this? Yeah, I'm not gonna go line by line if you don't mind. Okay, so some of the highlights off that are, we have that wood shop edition that we're working on. We've had some interest in in-kind donations as well as donations, but they're just kind of slowly coming in. Criminal justice and leadership class. So criminal justice class is a new class that I think you might be familiar with, that we're offering 3rd trimester. And this has been part of my presentation for about 5 or 6 years about a need. And my first meeting with Jessica is like the first item she brought up, and I'm glad that we got it. And Whatcom County Sheriff's Department is Jason Carb is going to be the instructor, and we're also adding a leadership class and with Emily, Family Consumer Sciences, and that should push her to full-time CTE. And then obviously our goal is to offer more certifications. And one big item is using Mount Baker student industry funds from, like our school-based enterprise from the greenhouse over the years to replace the roof. It's got a 10-year life. It's been on there for 17 years. And then hopefully part of Perkins could be too is to rotate ovens out. We usually try to stay ahead of problems with the rotation, but that's kind of taken a back seat. We've in the past we've done it about every 5 or 6 years. It's a goal, doesn't mean it's gonna happen. And then I think you guys know what Perkins is. It's a federal grant, and allocation is based on enrollment and our poverty rate. And obviously we have special population elements that are a big focus of it. And that comprehensive local needs assessment has 20 some pages that we have to address any and all gaps. And so that is going to require the school board chair to sign. Oh gosh, you guys are me. Probably gonna call again, sorry. So,
Russ has a question real quick.
oh,
Yeah, so Todd, I can sign it digitally if Tammy can set that up.
yeah, I just need to have it turned in by October, so
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll be, I'm just, I'll
hopefully
be
we
back
see you by then.
well before then, okay. Yeah, and I also kind of just sort of midstream here, going back to your higher graduation rate for CTE concentrators, or I think CTE is a really good reason for many of our students to stay in school and hence graduate, which also brings up the importance that I keep stressing of maintaining our elective opportunities at the high school through our high school schedule. I know it's always a challenge to keep the funding at that level to maintain that schedule, but it is essential to the success of our program. So I think it's our role to see to it that we can do that. So, but thank you for your excellent report so far.
Yeah, and I'll also say with the graduation rate released, I think in late May, it's like the high school, I think, went up to 77%. So mid-70s, at least. So that was encouraging to see, and CT was still, in the 85, 84, 86 percent range. So Perkins spent last year was on Snow Goose. That's a work-based learning opportunity for kids, and then learning management subscriptions. We do our safety exams online, animal CPR, use science, certification tests, AWS Sense, AET is an online kind of FFA ag class management tool for record keeping and work-based learning. And then CTE dual credit consortium dues was spent last year to those 3 colleges. We paid for some CTSO travel, like mostly FFA. And then we put some money into the foods program, a professional development conference that I know Karina and I go to. We'll leave, I think, Saturday for it. And then this is the action item that we will need to have adopted and signed as well. Then our plan for the next year doesn't change a whole lot. I don't know what our allocation is, but it's going to go to learning management subscription certifications, and then Snow Goose still, articulation fees. The good news is we pulled out of Wenatchee Valley College. They're charging a lot of money for one class, and so we got an articulation for my natural resources class with Skagit Valley College, so that's free. So that'll free up about $1,000, and then continue professional development, CTSOs, and then hopefully rotating ovens in the foods classroom. And like I mentioned earlier, the new classes, pretty excited about with Lieutenant Carb, and leadership class has got 2 sections of kids in it, I think with 28 to 30 in each, so they're full.
Any grade can take or what are the prerequisites?
For Crim J?
Yeah.
Well, we had 58 kids sign up. So we limited it to seniors. And so then if there's not 30 seniors, I mean, I think our target is 30 students. And then, like my daughter signed up for it, but she's going to be a junior, and it's like, well, good luck make sure you choose some alternates. So, you know, there might be a couple juniors in it, but yeah, we're pretty excited. So we're only offering one section. So the chance of freshman or sophomore getting into it, I think we said it had to be a junior or senior in that course catalog.
Russ has a question.
Yes, Russ.
Yeah, I wanted to say the leadership class has really been beneficial for the school board. You know, we've had some really great discussions with the leadership class, and then the leadership classes has provided the background and orientation for our student reps on the school board. So we've it is such a depth of field in the leadership class that we really have had a challenge to do selection. Last time we did selection for student reps, so really appreciate the leadership class, and I'm looking forward to criminal justice. That'll be great to see that in action.
Yeah. Okay, and then just some opportunities and challenges. So, you know, opportunities, the course equivalency, intro to education. That trying to get that to be an English credit. We're not able to offer it this next school year because of low enrollment. But when we started this course, and we've done this in the past, when we offered it with Paula 15, 20 years ago, we alternated it every other year. So that might be, but if we get that as an English credit, which we're working on, English teacher is teaching it, so they're all in favor. And then CT dual credit, criminal justice will get college credit at Whatcom Community College. And that instructor is pretty excited. We're the only school district in the county that offers that course, I believe, at least according to the Sheriff's Department. And then, you know, the natural resources moving to Skagit Valley College, adding the animal CPR, construction trades edition is exciting. And then obviously the two new classes. And then some challenges, you know, the CT funding used for principal and counselor. So our school enrollment isn't exactly increasing, but we're increasing the number of teachers. So it's kind of a balance. So school-wide, we have the same number of high school students. So anytime we add courses, I'm all in favor of it, but sometimes a double-edged sword because it's going to lower class sizes. And in CTE, we're basically funded based on our class size in a kind of a micro level compared to the school district. Karina's on maternity leave, starting, well, right after the fair. So she's going to the fair. We interviewed today. And then a low number of kids going to the Northwest Washington Fair. So we have 3 students going to the Linden Fair, well, with pigs, sorry. And we have 3 or 4 with sheep. So that's low, but the reason why is some kids did the math. And to eat at the fair, to park at the fair, to get into the fair, to dedicate, you know, 1 or 2 nights a week one night a week during the summer to weigh, to walk them, do all that kind of stuff. It kind of, you know, takes away when they can get a job and make more money. So kudos to them to do that math and figure it out. But, you know, it's a little bit different, but we still had, you know, 14 pigs go to Puget. So it's not like kids aren't raising them. But Puget's basically a day and a half. And as Jason knows, it's pretty low key.
And a lot cooler weather.
Donations are, people are interested in donations for the construction trades edition, how we manage that, how we deal with all that, in kind, all that kind of thing is, you know, we're going to try to navigate. And then CT dual credit fee is probably increasing for Whatcom County, but for about 3 years, I've been making a case that we should not be charged the same rate as Ferndale or Linden. They wanted a flat blanket fee of $5,000 per school district. So we'll see. And then, but they are they are considering it. And then large, we still have large class sizes in shops and labs. The other edge of the sword is if we have more offerings, you're probably going to limit that to where I'm not teaching 32 kids in a metal shop class, which is the first time that's ever happened in my career this year, but it worked okay. And then with those larger class sizes, as you know, is sometimes you need additional materials, especially in a lab or a shop-based class.
Who makes the decision on the dual credit fees? Or
Well, the college, from my understanding, like the Wacom CT Dual Credit Consortium. So we have a new director this year that I think's been doing a good job, and then I should say a manager. Director's still a dean, and then they're the ones that decide. And it's come up a couple times a year in our meetings, and it's just, and they're aware of the issue because Meridian, Nooksack, and us should not be paying the same amount as Ferndale. Bellingham pays a high fee, but Linden, Ferndale, where they have a lot more kids. So currently the fee is like $2,400, and Perkins money has always been allocated to pay for that first, and we're not paying Skagit Valley College, so I don't expect it to be a huge hit to Perkins. Okay, I think that's it.
anybody have any questions?
Not a question, but just more of a comment. We're going to be talking about our strategic plan, and some of the things are post-secondary pathways for students and reviewing current workforce data. And I think, as we develop this graduate profile, we'll want to take a close look at the opportunities for the students in the CTE programs, both currently and forecasted, so that we can kind of build that into our strategic plan and make sure it's supported. I mean, I'm kind of anticipating that there's going to be a increasing demand for the skills that are part of these programs, that we need to make sure that we're prepared for that.
Yep. I think with that, a big push on that construction trades edition, I mean, that could be pretty unique and pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
very, very good for students. And, with less programs, we're kind of than we had 5 or 6 years ago. Like the business program is essentially gone except for finance and computer programming, but those are classes someday. But to do that, we need about 150 more students in Hamburg High School.
Yeah.
So there's not the staffing or not the enrollment for it now.
Yeah.
I do have a comment about enrollment. I was crunching some numbers just really quickly, and if you look at our CTE enrollment over the last 10 years, it's dropping about 1.1% a year. Whereas our school-wide enrollment has been dropping about 3% year over year, which means that a greater total percentage of our students are enrolled in CTE than they've been every single year. So even though we're losing overall enrollment, the overall percentage of our students in CTE is actually growing.
Right. Yeah.
Which is an area of growth is something to be really mindful of in a time when we're losing students, that we're seeing that more and more students or percentage of our students are going into this area, and we're losing fewer and fewer students from there. And when we see things like how that has an impact on graduation rate, I want to point that out, that that's a really strong positive.
Yeah, it's been something I've been pretty proud of over. I mean, I've had 20 years of that data, and it's been 15 to 20 years of that data. It's been good, even though we've been going like this, that we've been staying, steady. At one time we were at 175 FTE and CTE. I'm just like, when we went below 100 about 4 years ago, I was just like,
It's gotta be, it's painful to watch the overall enrollment decline. And at the same time, when we talk about, like opportunity gaps or places where we're doing worse for some populations than we are for the general population, we're doing better for our students overall in CTE than we have year over year, even though we're losing enough students overall. So I guess I just wanna point out that bright spot,
Yeah.
that we're losing students at a slower rate by almost 2% a year slower in CTE than in our overall enrollment.
I think it has a lot to do with relevance of our classes, and kids don't have to ask. I've never been asked, when am I ever going to use this? A lot of teachers do, and it's something that we've worked on a leadership team, sharing a lot of things that we do in our ag mechanics contest with the math department, resumes from some FFA things that we do, and I think the relevance is a huge part of keeping.
Wow, big deal. Yep. And this is just something else I noticed, I wasn't counting in my head so much at graduation this year, but last year I kept hearing about the students' future plans and how so many of them wanted to go into criminal justice. And I know I counted at least 5 young women from last year's graduating class who were planning on going into criminal justice. So to see this new class meeting that interest is really exciting. And to be, if it's true, one of the only schools in the county, and that was a dual credit class, is that right?
It will be.
It will be a dual credit class. That's a really cool opportunity. And I just have been thinking about, maybe we're getting smaller in our enrollment, but what we do, we can do really well. And so I'm seeing those bright spots, and I want to point them out and appreciate them.
Got anything, Russ? You good?
No, I said my compliments before, and I'm just really appreciate this presentation.
All right.
Good.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, thank you.
And monthly finance report with Hannah.
Kind of been taught out.
Don't take it personally that the train's honking right when you're about to start.
Well, speaking of enrollment's down a little bit. Annual FTE is 1419. Actuals 1363 for K through 12. ALE 40.93. Running start 28.06. Open doors 24. And 1446. I think we're down about 5 from April.
And the budget that we're building is based on
Based on what?
14 and 18, so we're right where probably should be.
And this is just another look at monthly enrollment declines.
And why would we budget a number that's higher than our most recent enrollment?
We shouldn't, and that's my point, is just like,
Okay.
we think we made some good predictions about
Okay,
where things are gonna be next year.
okay.
We're also budgeting, starting our budget process months ago, so we're basing it on his historical data, not necessarily right this second.
Okay.
Current fund balance for our general fund, as of May was 1.8 million. Repeat myself yet again, we need 1.3 to meet our binding conditions of 4%. Policy requires 5%. And we just continue to be careful and hopeful. Cash flow.
I guess, are we gonna later look at the projected or expected ending fund balance?
No significant changes for the other funds. Revenue and expenditures, as of May, general fund revenues were 2.3 million. Expenditures were 2.7. Year-to-date general fund expenditures are 25 million and represent about 73% of our budgeted appropriations. We've got about 7.8 million encumbered. Those numbers totaled represents about 5.9% of our budgeted appropriations. This is our general fund balance trend by month over the last 3 years. This was something that we shared with, well, we shared all of this information with OSPI, but this is one of the questions TJ had for us. He was inquiring about why in 23-24 in May, we had a fund balance projection of 1.8 million. However, we ended with $941,000. And then this year, we also have a 1.8 balance in May, and we are projecting that will end about 1.5. So he was inquiring about what's different between now and then. And in the moment, I didn't have an answer for him. However, I have done some research, and actually in May, or not in May, in August of 23-24, we paid back a apportionment advance of $1 million. So that's why.
I see.
So we are on target. It'll be a little more similar to the prior year. August is generally a higher month because we get 10% of our apportionment.
In June, we'll see a dip like that.
Yeah,
Again,
June
that's
is
predictable.
generally the worst month of the year. And I kept this in there. The numbers have fluctuated just a tiny bit, but we are still looking at about 1.59 for an ending fund balance this year.
1.5. And percentage wise, what does that put us?
1.5.
It's 4.6%.
4.6. Okay.
I know 5% is 1.66.
Okay. Okay.
That's all I had.
What are the variables that could affect that outstanding fund balance that are kind of, I guess, the biggest variables that could affect that between now and then?
For the current year,
Yeah.
I think we should be pretty solid.
Okay.
I'm not expecting anything jumping out at us. We know what we've got for cash outs with retirement.
Right.
expecting, the increase with the utilities and whatnot, we've been looking at all year, since January anyway.
Right.
Shouldn't have any surprises.
Okay, so it's between now and end of July, so it's about 5 weeks away. But then that doesn't really get for sure confirmed until October.
Well, our budget will be our budget.
I mean, the confirmation of what the ending fund balance was. When did that happen? I know it's projected and then July, but
That was that F1
96.
say it, document.
Yeah. I suppose that is the final, but I feel like we'll know where we're at.
okay,
Before then.
okay.
Russ?
Yeah, could you elaborate a little bit on the most recent enrollment numbers and how that it might affect the enrollment projection that we build into to our upcoming budget and its implications for fund balance compared to what we were looking at the last time we looked at our budget a couple of weeks ago?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but I think what you're.
Are we looking at changing our enrollment number for this upcoming
No.
year from 418?
No, our budget is built on 14-18.
Yeah, 1418. I mean, yeah, 14 left out 1,000. But the if the May numbers were in the upper 13s.
1395 is what I saw.
What I couldn't quite read it. What were the May enrollment numbers at the bottom line? Oh, okay. Oh, so it's the actual was 1395.
Yes.
Actually,
And-
you could go back one more slide. So there's the actual, but there's also, because there's those different groups that are calculated differently. Our May annual average FTE is 1419.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, actuals are a head count essentially.
Right.
And enrollment traditionally declines over the school year. So, because last year the budget, I believe, was built on 1520. Yes. And so we're gonna start off budgeting a lot smaller, a lot more conservatively. And the goal is to try to keep that steady instead of seeing the decline, and we'll see how it goes. It is just a projection. We don't know for sure. Our kinder enrollment is at least looking like it's going to come in at what we were projecting. So that's a good sign. This time last year, we were about 20 less than what we were wanting to get to. So
the kindergarten enrollment is what we're projecting based on what we were allocating to kindergarten in the 14-18 number.
for the 14-18 kinder, I can't remember the exact number, so I'm not wanting to.
72.
72, and we're planning on 84. That was what we built into the budget. So we've got a good shot of making that
Okay.
projection.
Okay. Yeah, that helps me understand kind of what the thinking is. Thank you. And so I guess with that in mind, we're not looking at enrollment, the latest numbers enrollment changing our budget
No.
for next year. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
What's the typical increase in enrollment for starting the school year versus where you ended the previous school year? Is there any,
I can go back and look at some of those graphs and get that for you.
kind of curious if there's any predictable trend there?
I mean, we budgeted based on those historical trends.
Yeah.
That's what we started
Okay,
the year with versus what we ended.
right,
All the calculations include that information.
okay.
And the funding is based on an average, so that helps when it's a little bit higher at the beginning than at the end.
Right, yeah.
But it also gets adjusted.
Is there any scenario where you would see yourself adjusting the budgeted enrollment for next year's budget down?
No, because we have to have that budget done by this time next month.
So there's not time to
Yeah.
make that kind of adjustment. Okay.
But we did go with the most conservative projection, and I think that was smart, and,
Yeah, and it's a, you don't know.
Yeah.
Just don't know.
if we get to the same situation next year as we did this year, where come January, we realize we're off again. That's why the fund balance is so important, because we'll be able to use
Right.
that to make up for it. But then unfortunately, that's where we're gonna be looking at reductions again to make up for the reduced enrollment.
Right.
Good.
Thank you.
Great. Board action item, we're looking at the 2026 to 2031 strategic plan.
Okay. Let's see if I can. This to work here. You have the strategic plan in front of you, printed. Those of you online, or not. Looks like it will not, because I don't have it in the same window. So what I'll do, it is linked to the board agenda, so anybody online can find it there. This strategic plan is not a whole lot of changes from 2 weeks ago when we looked at it. The principals and I, though, the last two meetings, if you'll turn to page 11, one thing that we did is we went through all of the stages of implementation and talked through where we think phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3 should be. And knowing that, and I think they were appreciative of that idea, if we're going to do that strategic refresh, if it's looking like we're needing to adjust some of the timing, we have the opportunity to do that. It's really tempting to say we're going to do all of these things in year 1. Yeah, it's not going to be possible. So with phase 1, you'll see a lot of focus on goal area 1 with safety and belonging, where those are a lot of things that we should be making sure that we have those things in place before we go forward. Same with early learning. There was a lot of phase 1s there, but you'll start seeing more phase 3s in mastery of standards as we're getting into some of the more complex ideas around that. And then also more phase 3s in some of the future ready goals. And that's because we need to make sure that we're not just saying that we're doing things, that we're scaffolding and or making sure that we're laying the groundwork to get things done. And we'll know a lot more once we hit the ground running, but at least we've got a plan and a way to go forward with that. The printed plan that you have, this was just something that I printed here in district. And so especially as we get the Mount Baker profile of Mount Baker graduate done, and we kind of revamp this, I may see if I can get just get it formatted differently, and especially like that picture on the front page. I really want that to be a graduation picture, and so we'll update that once we have that graduate profile. One example of how we're already using the plan is so in goal area 3. So let me give you a page number. I love that it's like all put together now, and I can talk about it in this way. But goal area 3, outcome 1, which is increase the number of students demonstrating academic proficiency in all content areas. Some of the work that we've already started doing with principals and a little bit with teachers is talking about implementing standards-based learning intentions and success criteria and discuss lesson purpose and relevance with students. And so we've, as our last professional development day with teachers, we talked about what teacher clarity is and what that means and got feedback from them about their interest level in that, which was high. And then with principals starting to talk about, well, what does that mean for professional development in August? The other thing that's going to be starting this next school year is we're revamping the elementary report card so that it's going to be aligned to standards, which this also ties directly back to what we're trying to do in the strategic plan. So those are 2 actions that you're going to start hearing a lot more about that we'll be able to tie back to this and then measure with our metrics and outcomes about whether or not that's made a difference or not.
What kind of changes did happen to the report card?
Well, one is we're going to be moving it toward being online, similarly to how it is in the secondary schools. So teachers will be able to log on to Skyward and see grades, getting more real-time access to how students are doing. But what Kim Elms is doing right now is working with Skyward to actually create grade books that are tied to the standards. So when teachers are grading students in math, for example, you're going to be able to, it's not just a math grade overall, it's more detail about, well, which standards what did your student meet and which ones are they still needing more work on.
Okay, great.
So it's good. I mean, that's a big lift. When you think about, especially elementary teachers who haven't been using online programs like that, Skyward is not a friendly program for anybody that I've met. And so that's part of the planning, part of the work.
But then it also allows the district to have that data already built from the ground up.
Right.
Which is awesome.
And the other tool that's going to be very helpful is the online panorama program, because that will speak to Skyward and be able to pull grades. And so we're going to also be able to show a lot of this information in more user-friendly formats. That's also tied to attendance. That's also tied to behavior. And it'll be one-stop shopping in ways that we can, I think, get a better picture of what's going on with our students. And I think everybody's working hard, but how can we make sure that it's also working smart so that we're getting the progress that we want to see?
Mhm.
Great.
Nice.
I did have a couple of questions and comments. One was it's just kind of a general comment. So we have a lot in the strategic plan about what Mount Baker is doing for students, which is awesome. And really, we have one item that gets to the heart of what the expectations are for students, which is the I preserve statement: challenging, give best effort, solving problems, hard work. That's great. I guess my question is that enough for kind of like the general category of what our expectations are of students in terms of how that gets represented in our strategic?
Well, I don't know if I can quantify if that's enough, but I think the next step of that is the graduate profile, where we talk more about how that shows up and what we're doing to support that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And undergraduate profile, we have why does this work matter? And employers increasingly value adaptability, collaboration, and critical thinking. And I was curious if you had some thoughts around what are the ways that we help students develop their critical thinking skills?
As a teacher, that was one thing that I remember saying repeatedly. I just wish I could figure out how to get kids to think, like, and show evidence of that. That's hard to do. I think that comes. I don't want to answer that because for myself right now, because how we define that as a system in Mount Baker is going to take a lot of other people. Like, what does that mean? But critical thinking is where we're going to have to design strategies that teachers are using that that develop evidence of learning. What can we see and what can we hear? And that is gonna take a lot of deliberate work on the part of us as a system.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. I mean, yeah, it's part of the graduate profile, which is still being developed. And for the goals, outcomes, and performance targets, which I love the format and having measurable things. What is the frequency for measuring those things, and what does that feedback loop look like?
Well, for each of these, they're going to be measured in different ways at different times. The Healthy Youth Survey is given every other year. I can't remember, but we get the data from there is not as frequent as we would like. That's another reason why we went with the Panorama program, because we can use that to give student, staff, and family surveys as many times as we want throughout the year. So we'll be starting that this fall. And in my conversations with principals yesterday, they were even talking about, okay, well, maybe we do some of these surveys 3 times a year. Sometimes we do them 2 times a year. So we're going to be able to measure. I think if we only give surveys in the spring when everybody's tired and grumpy and wanting the year to be done, we may not, get the helpful information that we need. So attendance data, discipline data, that we're going to be able to pull that monthly.
Okay.
One thing that Kim and I are going to be working on is figuring out what kind of data dashboard can we create that would give the board and community some real-time data around what we're looking at and what we're using. So WAKIDS, WIDA, those types of things, those ESPA testing, those only happen once a year. That's why it's important to have iReady, which is a good tool to be getting data throughout.
Okay. And do you feel like we've got the right tools in place, like iReady and those types of things, or are you expecting that you're going to need to make some changes?
I think with the combination of iReady and Panorama, we have the right tools in place.
Okay. And is Panorama on this list, or is that something that?
It's not. We're up at the top under safety and belonging where it says perception survey. That's what Panorama provides.
Oh, okay. This is maybe more for the board comment. Our role, and I don't know that you were here last time we talked about this, Danielle, but one of the board role items is align policy development with strategic priorities. And so this is above and beyond the, I guess, the input that WASDA gives. And so I just don't want to lose sight of that, because I feel like that's an easy thing to forget. And we had talked about maybe having like an AI bot. Jessica suggested that, put all the policies into along with this to help with that. So what's, I guess, my question, board members, what's the time frame to do this? Do we need to set some action items? Because, this is really on our list of things that we need to take ownership.
I'm impressed, Ed, because remember when you didn't like when we talked about policy? Now all you want to do is talk about policy?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I just, if I'm responsible for something, I want to make sure I do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any control over or any way to do an AI bot with anything, so that's,
maybe we need
but I'm
to,
not against it.
I
So.
mean, I could spend some time on it, but, you know
Yeah.
how?
She's the
That,
boss of it.
I think you just volunteered.
We can also build that into our board retreat in August.
Okay.
Conversations around not only what policies does the board want to see me bring forth for policy to practice throughout this next school year, but what are some areas where you have interest in promoting maybe policy that doesn't exist yet?
Right.
I had a question. This document reflects what would be going out into the community, but we've seen versions of the strategic plan that have more detail, like which forms of.
This is actually the most detailed version of it. This is putting it all together.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The piece that I may not put out for the one like on the website, may eliminate or it would just not have the plan practices at the end.
Okay.
Not that we're hiding anything, but it's just trying to make it so it's not so.
Dense, yeah. I feel like I'd seen a version of it where we had an outcome and target, and then how we were going to assess it.
That's what page 7 is.
Okay, and I just missed that page when I was flipping. Oh, there it is. Okay, beautiful. Great. A lot of work. This is the culmination of a lot of work.
Yeah.
And a lot of voices.
Very often.
What kind of feedback are you getting from folks within the district about it? How are they feeling about it?
Honestly, not a whole lot of feedback in the survey form that went out.
Yeah.
But again, the timing of the year is
Fine.
a big piece of that. The couple teacher comments were just like, they appreciated the fact that they could see what their role is in this plan, that's clearly defined.
I think that's what everybody was looking for. That's what I was looking for, and it's super helpful.
Looks like Rusty's looking.
Oh, Russ.
Yeah, yes, I think I've mentioned before that this has been the best strategic planning process in all the strategic plans that I've worked on since I've been on the board. And I think, you know, the degree of community involvement of students, parents, staff, and the board has really, and then we built on other districts' models, is really, I think, come up with a plan that is both actionable and really covers our greatest needs. And I really want to thank Jessica for great leadership on the strategic plan process. I know some districts will hire a consultant to do it. I think if we did that, we'd probably have a plan that sat on the shelf. And so I think that we'll have a plan that we will want to implement, and we'll know how to implement because we've put together all the nuts and bolts. And I really look forward to the graduate profile process. And then also in partial answer to one of your questions, Ed, for critical thinking, Jessica's mentioned recently about certain areas where we need curriculum updates, and I think critical thinking can be embedded both in our practices and into aspects of the curriculum. So I think looking for opportunities to engender that in students, and then also being able to measure that will be something that we can continue to improve on.
Right.
But it definitely feels like it could be part of that profile of the graduate, right? What's their responsibility? What are they going to be able to do, but also need to work? Yeah.
Critical thinking, as I've looked at other districts for graduate profiles, critical thinking is a common skill that's highlighted. And then we've got plans around how they develop that.
Well, I'm really excited to see this
Yeah,
and how
very
it
exciting.
shapes the work, how it shapes our understanding as a board of the work and our ability to track our progress. It's big wow.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just in today, you talked twice of things that you guys are doing that's in the strategic plan are gonna show it. And, I don't know if I've ever heard the strategic plan, our previous strategic plan brought into a conversation since I've been a part of the board, because it was unmeasurable kind of, and some of it hard to follow. So I think it's definitely in a helpful direction for sure.
Well, and in September, when I bring the individual school buildings, school improvement plans, that's again where you're connections between this and what each school's goals they're setting for themselves. So it really will all fit together.
Nice.
Really
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2026 to 2031 strategic plan.
Motion to approve the 2026 to 2031 strategic plan.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Okay, career and technical education action plan.
So that was the plan that you saw briefly in the presentation,
Okay.
and it's just the approval that Todd's gonna need to move forward.
Okay, any more questions on that? Entertain a motion to approve the CTE action plan.
Motion to approve the CTE action plan.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
hi.
And then the CTE Perkins application. You saw that? Anybody have any more questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the CTE Perkins application.
Motion to approve the CTE Perkins application.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Okay. Declaration of surplus property.
So I will have Todd talk to this, or answer any questions that you might have, but this was something that, he brought to us because of, some property that the district owns that, we have a, community member who is wanting to lease, the property for use. The surplus part of this is what our legal counsel said was the appropriate process for doing so, but I'll let Todd kind of explain what the land is being used for.
Yeah, so, this is the Williams Road property, just down the road about a little bit over a mile. So currently we have, like, Harry Williams has had beef run on it, and it's kind of been a pretty informal agreement, like, hey, Todd, can we run beef on it? Sure, keep the grass down, please, okay? In return, he used to give us, I don't know, $300 to $500 a year donation to the ag program or FFA. And then, Harry's kind of getting out of it, and he didn't have any beef on the property last year. But his son Ed and Alexandra are interested in using our land to put beef on. In return, it's like for the last 10 or 15 years, he's given us like 300, 400 ears of corn for our salmon barbecue. And then sometimes also to sell, like that money goes to FFA. So she approached me, like her insurance wants a formal lease agreement for that property. And so we developed a lease. Legal counsel said that we need to declare it surplus. I still use the property, okay? So I don't really want it to be sold. But I use it for soil testing, slope determination. I spread manure on it for 5 hours on Monday from our barn. It's part of our farm plan with the county that we spread our manure on that. Then we also use property behind it is owned by Harry and the Williams and Anderson families combined. And we use some of that for teaching forestry in class. It's easier to access than Sumas Mountain or Silver Lake and cheaper to get to. So I don't see any real big change from what we've been doing in the past. This is just kind of a formal agreement for probably our benefit as well as.
Do we maintain fences on the property?
Part of the agreement from what I read a little while ago was that they're responsible for fencing.
Okay.
There was an electric fence and I went there Monday. Where's the electric fence at? Well, they took it down. Actually the flood took it out. And the flooding, kind of one other reason for this is because they didn't have cows on last year when it flooded this year. a lot of the dead grass caused a lot of issues with their berries. I mean, they're still picking it out.
I see.
And, but I also didn't know that they weren't gonna run cows no more, so. And they cut it for me the other day, just because they knew I was coming down, like just kind of get ahead of it, so I wasn't gonna start a fire with the tractor.
Cow runs off the property into the road and a car hits it. Is that on their insurance or how's that?
I'm assuming so.
We can find out.
Okay, that's my only question. If there's any liability for us related to that.
I have a copy of the lease agreement.
Russ?
Yeah, so this just our board action is a declaration of surplus property, so it's not specifically the terms, conditions of the lease, or the process for soliciting potential lessees. And I think probably my comments are not so much, I think I see the value in passing this resolution, the declaration of surplus property. I just, when we look at the actual leasing process, to the extent we can, I'd like to have comparable lease rates for comparable properties and so that we are able to ensure that our lease is within market conditions and whatever process we use for soliciting lessees is also fits with our obligations. I don't.
Yeah. I think this is just the first step in the process, and so to be continued. There's more questions later.
And I think this is for I think it said for 3 years.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, comments? And entertain a motion to approve resolution 252610.
Motion to approve resolution 252610.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, superintendent contract. Have anything to say about it?
The only thing I'll say is that there's nothing different in the contract from what you approved last year, other than the dates have been moved up 1 year. I have not taken any pay raise as we are freezing admin salaries because of budget concerns.
I'll just take a moment to say I really appreciate the work you're doing. I'm really excited about it, and I'm very thankful to have you here.
Thank you.
Great.
Ditto. All right, motion to approve superintendent. I'll entertain a motion to approve the superintendent contract.
Motion to approve the superintendent contract.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, regular meeting coming up. We just have one meeting in July with the budget hearing, and that's July 23rd at 6 p.m. And then August 13th, August 27th, and our board retreat is August 5th. And strengthening tribal consultation is August 12th.
Did you mention the board meeting on July 9th?
We don't have one.
No board meeting July 9th.
Yep, because I'm out of town and you're like gone, everybody's
Okay.
gone.
So the next board meeting is the July 23rd. one.
July 23rd.
You mentioned.
Yep.
Okay.
The board will recess into executive session for 60 minutes to discuss the performance of a public employee and collective bargaining negotiations. No action will be taken following the executive session.
Okay.
We'll call you, Russ. All right.